Hi, my name's Ian. Thank you for the introduction, Morgan. Just to confirm, everyone at the back can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you're at the back. Okay, great, thank you. So this talk is a motivational talk on why you should be excited about automation and why tomorrow when you get to work, you're just going to hunt down something to automate to make your own life better and enjoy your day a bit more. So as people who come to talks like this and who maybe watch on video, we're all excited in some way about the process of making apps. Maybe we've just new and we do this as a hobby. Maybe we've been doing this for a long time. But there's something about the creativity, the collaboration, the process of turning an idea into something that delights users that's really enjoyable. And for me, my favorite thing, doesn't happen all that often, but you're out and about, maybe you're in the pub with some friends, maybe you're out with your family, and you see someone who you've never met using your app. It's that great moment of like, yes, that's what I work on. This person's excited about it. And maybe you feel something like this. And who here would identify with that? They've ever had that feeling that like, yes, I like making apps. Come on, show of hands, everyone. I would say that's most of the room. Everyone else, I'm a bit confused. And that's how we feel all the time, right? Every day we wake up and we're like, yes, I'm so excited to look at Jira. I love Jira. I can't wait to go to stand-up and just high-five all my colleagues because they're all so fun to work with. They're all so good. No one ever writes any bugs. We look at this code and we're like, every piece of code is glorious. Does anyone feel this way? No. There's a disconnect between how we feel some of the time and then how we feel in our day-to-day reality of making apps. Maybe you think your team is like this. You are all the cats riding the magical unicorn, blowing fire everywhere. You're just, building perfect features. You never have bugs. Your days are just magnificent. But for everyone else, it's back to reality. Because maybe sometime in the last week, you were in Interface Builder and you're running your app and you're like, why is this thing not working? And you realized you haven't hooked up an outlet. And you just despair, like, I've been doing this for years. Why does this still happen? Maybe there was an object that I see some nods, that's good. It's not just me. Maybe you have an object that's nil and you never expect it to be nil, but you don't have an assertion and you've just spent time tracking this down, and again, you despair. Maybe you gave something to your friend in QA, and you were really excited. You're like, I'm going to go get coffee. He's going to be on this for at least half an hour, and you come back in 5 minutes, and the ticket's back over, and you're like, oh, man, it just doesn't quite work. And maybe you feel more like this some of the time. Oh, man, that's so washed out. It's a cat frantically typing a keyboard. It's the funniest gift I have in here, so you're not going to see it, I'm sorry. And this is the thing about bugs. Most of our bugs in our code are not that interesting. They're really mundane, like the things I described. If you just think about it, what percentage of your time do you spend tracking down, like you've got this really concurrent code and you're trying to find this race condition that happens once every 1,000 times. That's probably not what most of the bugs you find in your everyday development. In your everyday development, there's just something silly that you didn't hook up properly, that you had an enum that you put to the wrong case in this one scenario, something like that. And these are the bugs. They don't typically get out to users. You have your great QA team. You find it just using your app every day. But the thing about these types of normal everyday bugs is they're really frustrating. They steal your time. This is the time you could be doing all that fun stuff where you're writing new features, you're working on stuff to delight your users. And these types of bugs just steal your time. And most of them are really easy to catch. Obligatory Pokemon Go image. So how do we catch them? Well, actually, so much of our life can be automated at work and at home. So much of everyday bugs can be caught through really simple tests. If you've not really been doing testing, well, just quick show of hands. How many people write some kind of unit tests? Almost everyone. That's great. How many people write automated UI tests, like end-to-end tests? Okay, a lot less people. How many people have automated upgrade tests that test like rolling upgrades? I want to speak to you later. Great. Yes, we've moved on. A few years ago, we really didn't see like a huge amount of unit tests. I think if we'd taken that poll just for the video, everyone put their hands up for unit tests. I was shocked. But a few years ago, that probably wasn't what we're expecting. And then we've kind of got a few on end-to-end tests, and then just one on automated upgrade tests. But why don't we do these things? And a few days ago, I was just looking through Twitter, and I came across this from Sarah May from Railsbridge. She writes, lots of people don't test their code, not because they're lazy or ignorant, but because setting up test infrastructure is really hard. And I think that speaks to the numbers that we just saw. Unit tests kind of fall into that easiest category, easiest to get set up, look like normal code, you just have to learn the assertion macros. And then you have integration tests or end-to-end tests. You might use XC UI test, you might use KIF, Calabash, Appium. There's loads of options, but the reality is it's a lot harder to get set up. It's really hard to make them stable and reliable so that you don't get a load of false negatives or false positives. But the benefits are huge. If you can have your unit tests run against your pull requests, and the same, you have your end-to-end tests run against your pull requests, this means you have to spend less time manually going through all the scenarios to be confident that everything works. Just while we're talking about this tweet, this is a great point of looking at, there's a whole load of hosted solutions for running your automation tests versus kind of self-hosted. Self-hosted would be like Jenkins, TeamCity, all that kind of stuff. But then you have on the other end, Travis, other things that you're familiar with. So on a practical level, if we were going to go about automating all the things, where would we want to start? So code formatting. Oh my goodness, who loves commenting on code formatting in a pull request? Who just gets real joy out of commenting on other people's code formatting? No one put their hand up, but I know there's one person who's honest. This is just like a whole load of mundane stuff that we don't have to do. The process of automation is literally stuff you do no longer have to do. Same with builds. How many people use Fastlane? Loads. How many people have some kind of automated build system? Most people. It's great. Just a few years ago, I don't think it was as common. And then we have automated tests. We had those 3 different groups. We're going to look at those again later. Pull requests. So who has some kind of infrastructure set up to automate their pull request process? Just a couple. That's great. So Danger, which is a screenshot on the right. If you use GitHub, I'd highly encourage you to check out Danger from Auto and Felix Kraus. And I know Dan's been working on it as well. I've seen some comments on there. It's a great tool for automating your pull request etiquette. Currently works with GitHub, hopefully going to work with GitLab soon. And it will run kind of like, whatever Ruby script or other script you want. Look at things like code style, important files that shouldn't be changed. You can set it up. It's highly flexible. App submission, test flight, entirely automatable. Screenshots for the App Store. If you just think about how much time people in your team spend doing these things, and how actually you can just pull that time back for stuff that you really want to work on that makes a difference for users. Great, so I wanted to kind of go into testing just a little bit deeper, be very quick. And I want to say before I get into the automated side of it, I think the most important part of testing and improving your testing process is working with QA engineers. I think so often as we talk about testing, we forget there's so many people who are really super skilled at what they do, have a different mindset to the features, and it's important to just work with our QA teams, not just kind of do our own thing on the side. But then we have unit tests, which I'm not going to go too much into. End-to-end tests, which have made a really massive difference for us. I've been working with a large UK retailer for the last year. And previously, we had no unit tests, no integration tests, no upgrade tests. And the integration tests with end-to-end in different environments has made the biggest difference to our workflow. We have them run on every pull request. They do take about 10 to 20 minutes to run, which sounds like a long time. But when you compare that to someone manually going through and checking all those scenarios, it saves our QA engineer countless hours, and we find stuff before it gets to him, which is great. And then upgrade tests. This is the one I've kind of recently become really interested in. I'm just going to talk very briefly about. It's with SimCTL, the command line tool. It's very easy to install an app on your simulator or device. And if you have a very simple script that just runs through your release, whether you use tags or branches, if you have some kind of consistent naming, it's fairly easy to write a script that checks those all out, builds them, and then installs them kind of on a simulator or device. LinkedIn have a great blog post on this where they go into a lot more detail. I think the LinkedIn engineering blog is highly underrated, definitely worth checking out. But they use this to kind of do, the last 5 builds. They'll, do a rolling update, which you typically expect a user to do. And then they'll do, from the 5th back to the latest, the 4th back to the latest, 3rd back to the latest. And they kind of have these tests running all the time, which is a kind of a great kind of thing to aim for. They also said they had over 250 engineers checking code to their iOS and Android code base in 1 year. So I'll leave that out there as well. This is an example. Oh, sorry, last thing. If you haven't seen automated UI tests, this is an example from the LinkedIn blog post about how they're using KIF. It's just a kind of great visual representation of how quickly some of these scenarios can be tested. Imagine manually doing some of these steps. The one on the right is much faster. Great. Cool. So should we just stop everything we're doing and spend all of the next 3 weeks automating everything? That'd be a great idea. Product owners would love us. Everyone would be really happy with the progress of the app. No, it's probably a really bad idea. The best way to do it is just spend, oh, look at that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning, guys. Just start again. Okay. Actually, the best way to kind of do these things is to just think about what is one thing that can save me a bit of time this week. What do I spend a bit of time every week doing? Maybe it's not just me, maybe it's someone else on my team. Maybe I can write a small script to help improve that workflow. Maybe I have a Ruby engineer in my company who can teach me how to write a Fastlane plugin, even though I've never written Ruby before. There's so many options. I think so often we think, just leave it to someone else. So I hope this has motivated you. I hope you found it encouraging and nice. Thanks very much. I'm going to pass over now. Do I need to take